Okay, so here we are, guys. I think this is recording. I'm not exactly sure. But okay, so we're gonna be doing this Minecraft world. I kind of started it already by mistake. This is actually a voiceover because I'm messing with editing software. Not necessarily. Well, I mean, I guess not really necessarily an editing software, but like the video software. But I didn't know how to use it that well, so I didn't know how to implement audio yet. So I'm doing this in an editing software. I'm kind of just narrating my video currently. So if you don't know, one of my favorite wood types is acacia, which is why I go after it when I see it, because it is very helpful to build with stone and stuff. And I don't think I should probably change my what's it called, my rendering of leaves from fast to fancy, so that way they don't like look really gross. So I guess I know for a fact that at one point, so just a heads up, in this video I pressed pause by mistake. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So it cuts forward like really far ahead because I hadn't realized I clicked pause on the recording software. And so this is me, like, yeah, like up it says at the top, it's like roughly 10 or so minutes later, and I found a cave that I'm gonna explore and stuff. So I guess we can just I guess I'm not really that good at voiceovers because it's kind of like weird, like watching myself play like what I already did. But it's pretty much just the mining montage, to be honest. So another problem though is that, like I said, I don't know how to I don't know how to use this video software that well. So I don't have any in-game audio, but I hope by next time I will have audio for in-game. One thing you may notice is the fact that I have dynamic lighting for my torch, which you can get by downloading this mod, this client-side mod, meaning it only affects you. So if you can use it on a like multiplayer server if you'd like. This is only in Java edition to my knowledge, but yeah, I didn't know what happened there. I didn't see a creeper or anything show up behind me. But anyway, with Optifine, it lets your game run more consistently. So before recording this, my game it was running at around like 70 FPS, but it would have random drops in FPS rates. So it'd go from about 70 to 20 at just random intervals. Optifine is really helpful with this because although it does make my FPS lower, it makes it way more consistent. So I believe my FPS is probably somewhere around 30 to 40 for the majority of the time. And it's really nice having that consistency because of the fact that it makes it makes the video better, especially with YouTube compression. Because if you don't know, YouTube has a problem with compressing videos, and so if it was jumping between 70 and 20, it would have trouble with like rendering the video to upload and stuff. If you want to know the recording software I'm using, I am using a recording software called OBS. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I could probably find it somewhere. I think it's like open. Oh, hold on. Let me pull it up because I'm not exactly sure what it's called. If you hold on what is this called? What does the OBS stand for? Open Broadcaster Software. So it's a free video software that you can download and use to like screen record games on the computer and stuff. I guess I'll probably primarily be playing on the computer because I don't have a screen capture or a capture card for the console, and in order to get one that would be like roughly $50 for like a decent one. I mean, I had a lot of fun making this video. I hope that you guys like this video too. I don't know if I'll be able to talk for the whole length of this video, considering the video is like almost 30 minutes long, if you didn't see that already. I did record a video earlier today that was a capture from Xbox, and oh my lord, that video quality is bad. I don't know what happened, because on the Xbox when you watch it, it's in 720p, and then I transferred it over to my phone, and I guess I should have transferred it to my computer, but my phone compressed it so badly, so it's at 480, and it just looks really nasty. But essentially, it's a pretty epic no-scope snipe in a game called Destiny 2. It's currently one of my more favorite games to play, just because I have a lot of friends who play it, and it's a pretty common talking ground when it comes to video games, is talking about this game. One thing I will say is that I will say that I'm a pretty avid video game player, so not to brag or anything, but I'm pretty good. You'll see, I think, I'm not exactly sure when in the video, I probably shouldn't spoil it, but like I said, this is a mining montage. I haven't built a house yet at this point in time. I don't know when the next video will be up, because considering that this video is 30 minutes long, it's going to take it's going to take roughly 1 to 2 hours to upload to YouTube. And it doesn't help that the Wi-Fi at my house isn't that great. But I do hope you enjoy. I know I've said that 100 times. If you have any suggestions for games you'd like me to play in the future, that would be great. So here I believe I do cut the video so you don't have to watch me smelt iron for a while. I don't know exactly. I think it's once I hit 7 or 8 iron, I decide to pause the video. Something like that. I pause the video and then so it's essentially a cut. I'm learning how to use this learning how to use this software, and it's really helpful being able to make cuts during the video, so that way you don't have to watch really monotonous stuff. So I think, okay, the cut's gonna be coming up in 12 seconds or so. It'll skip ahead. At this point in time, actually, when I did cut the video there, I guess I pressed the wrong button. I pressed stop recording, but that was not what my intention to do. So there, it just cut there. It was not a lag spike. But so yeah, I did some stuff off screen. I let the iron smelt. I added a scoreboard for deaths, but I don't die in this video, at least in this episode. So I'm not sure if it's worked or not. One thing I will say though is that I was talking about Optifine earlier, And I forgot to mention that I'm also using these things called data packs, which I guess you could refer to them as mods, but they're not really. They just like they're I don't know exactly how to explain them. I guess in a way they're mods, but they're more like just making the game more convenient. For example, like one of the ones that I really like is the fact that you can smelt rotten flesh into leather, which I like that feature. Another thing is that like you can craft slabs and like stairs back into the blocks and stuff that they were before. It's just like makes things a little bit more convenient. One thing I guess that is kind of on the cusp of being a mod is probably the player graves. So that's essentially added so that way I don't have to worry about my items despawning or anything. I can just go to where the grave is, and then I believe crouch over it, and then once I do that, I'll get all my stuff back. I know that probably a lot of people, I'm not sure about what you guys think, but like, hold on. Somebody's sending me a message. Okay, I don't know what your guys' opinion is on data packs, on whether or not I should use them. I mean, I could remove them, but it might cause a few problems if I do. That wouldn't interfere with Optifine though, because Optifine is its own thing. It's not a data pack. That is actually technically a mod, like I said. So I guess I'm technically not playing vanilla, but I'm not playing vanilla. I'm just playing just like an altered version. But yeah. So I hope this video does well. I keep saying that, and it's getting a bad habit. So here I throw out a few items, as you can see. One thing I will say, I guess I can talk about my opinion about Java versus Bedrock. So I know majority of people at where most of my friends go are Bedrock players, and that's essentially that's playing on mobile, Xbox, or if you have a Windows 10 computer, playing on there. But the thing between Java and Bedrock that is different is that the fact that Java has quite a few more complicated mechanics than Bedrock does. And this is partially due to the fact that they use different coding programs. I know that Java Edition uses the C++ program and Bedrock uses C++. And I believe they're made by the same company, but they're very different in how you do the commands in order to like code something. And I think C++ is a little bit easier to code just because you can do more specific commands with like what you want the game to do and stuff, and then C++ is like a little more not necessarily janky, but more you need to know how to use each command to its full effect, because if you don't, then like it's really hard to make a game work properly. And that's how it is with most games. Most games, like, they have, some people create engines that like have their own coding system, like their own coding stuff that like allows them to do like things that like other games can't do because they use a pre-made engine. So for example, like I know Fortnite uses the Unity 4 engine, and that's mostly due in part to the fact that Epic owns the Unity 4 engine. And I don't really have an opinion on Unity 4, mostly because the only game that I know that uses it is Fortnite. I think maybe the new Assassin's Creed maybe use it. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure. I'm not really, I don't really ever play Assassin's Creed. I've played a few. I played like Black Flag for a little bit, and I played the beginning of Brotherhood, and I played. I mean, I've played quite a few of them. It's just I haven't, played very much of them. Um, so what I was talking about. Oh yeah, so video game engines. So if you don't know, like, I don't know. I guess I could talk about. I don't know. But anyway, okay. Let me continue about the tangent about how they're different. So essentially, the difference between these two is the fact that. Oh yeah, here I have found diamonds over here. So anyway, so I guess the difference is with Bedrock, since it's much simpler because the coding language is much simpler to use than C++, there's a lot of things that like aren't in Bedrock. So for example, there's a like redstone term that is called quasi-connectivity, which essentially means that you can power pistons diagonally. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I know it's not in Bedrock, and that changes a lot of mechanics between the Bedrock edition and the Java edition because of that fact. And when like that happens, it's a little rough for people like watching tutorials and stuff because you need to make sure that like specific like redstone or stuff works in Bedrock as well as Java. And most of the time it doesn't when it comes to piston, like piston doors or flying machines and stuff like that. So you have to like find Bedrock edition versions of those machines in order to like be able to do what you want. One person I would recommend would probably be Silent Whisper. He's really helpful. He releases videos on how to make mob farms and mostly mob farms. He also has a series called Truly Bedrock where like I have started watching recently, and it's pretty interesting considering the fact that me and some of my friends, we do a realm, and it's nice to see farms that you can build in Bedrock Edition. Another thing with the difference between Bedrock and Java Edition is that because Java Edition is considerably older, it's had a lot more time to like iron out problems and stuff. And it's understandable why some people are mad that Bedrock doesn't iron out their issues, is mostly because for a while Bedrock was pretty much neglected, and it was just horrible until like pretty recently when they implemented the 1.4 update, like 1.14.4, which I believe for the Bedrock edition would be 1.12, which really changed a lot of the game's mechanics and made it a little bit better. One thing I will say though is that mob spawning in the Bedrock edition is very problematic because of the fact that when you leave a chunk and you like leave that chunk with entities in it, they don't get unloaded properly, and so that adds this thing called a mob cap, and the mob cap in Bedrock is 8. So you can only have 8 hostile mobs within a certain parameter of your character. I believe that's within 54 like blocks diameter. You can have a hostile mob and it'll add to the mob cap. So this makes farms quite a bit less efficient. And that's one problem because I know on the Java edition the mob cap for at least hostile mobs is like 20, and That makes farms a lot better, but not only that, but the Java edition properly unloads entities that are in unloaded chunks, which are essentially, chunks that you are not within 128 blocks of. One thing that Java does not do, or Bedrock doesn't do, is the fact that once you've loaded a chunk, it'll add to the world size file, like the world size file, and the bigger the file, like sometimes like the slower your game runs because it needs to keep track of those. So I know you can get mods where essentially if there was like a chunk that you flew through for I think if you were only in it for like less than a minute, it like deletes those from the world save and makes the world save smaller and makes the game run better. And this isn't really a problem that you need to worry about, other unless you have a lot of people on the server that have Elytra, which is an endgame item which you can essentially fly with. And if you do have this, you can use rockets to propel yourself. And so when you're traveling from place to place, you load a lot of chunks because you go really fast, but you don't necessarily go back into those chunks ever again. And so because of that, you're still they're still part of the world save, and that just makes the world run slower. And I would recommend that if you do choose Java Edition to play on, that you get the mod that essentially deletes those chunks, and so that way your game runs a little bit faster. So yeah, one thing I will say though that I do like about the Java edition over Bedrock is because there's a thing in Java called spawn chunks, and I don't know exactly the diameter of which the spawn chunks are, but essentially at all times, no matter where you are in the world, those chunks are loaded. And these are used in a lot of farms and stuff, especially in farms that are like made by the SciCraft people. And if you don't know who the SciCraft people are, they're essentially like Minecraft redstone engineers that are like really, really good. And they make these crazy things. Like they have a witch farm that has like 4,300 drops like a minute. And they also have like slime farms that have like it's just crazy. They have like a machine that literally like they play on hard mode, and they have a machine that they built that like literally just turns it to peaceful mode by moving like 900 hostile mobs and minecarts from one chunk into the spawn chunks. And so what that does is it like doesn't let any other mob spawn because of like the enormous amount of mobs that are in the spawn chunks. Unfortunately, you can't do that in the Bedrock edition because that's just not how it works. And also the Bedrock edition doesn't have spawn chunks, but you can do this thing called ticking areas. Problem with those is that they can only be 4 chunks by 4 chunks wide. I know they go all the way to height limit and all the way down to Bedrock, but you can only have 10 of them in total, so you really gotta like ration out like where you're gonna put these ticking areas. What's another thing? I guess I can go back onto the quasi-connectivity thing. So with the quasi-connectivity, I guess it's hard to explain because like I really only know like the basic definition of it, which is just like you can have essentially bud powering is what it's called, which is what diagonal powering is, where essentially you can have a a thing that thinks it's not powered, but it is, because it's this weird, like, lazy redstone mechanic where if you power it and then unpower it really fast and then power it again, it doesn't realize that it's repowered, and so it needs like some sort of update, like walking through a string, or like pressing a button or something to like update it, and then it'll go through that cycle again where it'll, it powers it, unpowers it, powers it, and then it goes back to being like lazy again. I know this is something that's used with a redstone like thing called T flip-flops, which is a circuit where essentially it like utilizes this thing called piston dropping, where a piston is like flashed with like a short enough redstone tick to the point that it like can't retract the block that it has. This is only in Java Edition, and I really wish it was in Bedrock, but unfortunately it's not. And this is another thing that causes a lot of problems with like redstone, like videos transferring and like being able to like make redstone contraptions between the versions. So you get to see me make a really dumb mistake, because I thought I was crouching. I was not crouching. But anyway, I do kill that skeleton, so it's no big deal. So we're wrapping up, I guess. Out of this whole experience, I got a block's worth of diamonds. I probably next episode build a house, probably. I might travel somewhere different than the island I spawned on, because it's not really that great. So right here I'm going to be getting just a bucket of water. One thing I will say is that if you do get diamonds early on, I'd recommend making a pickaxe first. Do not make a sword. That's just a waste, and it's pointless to make a diamond sword before you make a diamond pickaxe. And I understand, like, oh, what if I only get 2? Well, then make an enchantment table, because again, it's more practical to use than a diamond sword. I would just stick to using iron tools until you're able to like get enough diamonds to make like a full set of diamond tools, as well as enchant them. I guess this is the end of the video.